This commentary encompasses International Women's Day on March the 8th, and complementing International Women's Day this year is the 25th anniversary celebration of the famous Beijing Conference of Women back in 1995. And quite naturally, there are a number of international organizations that are submitting documents and launching reports to commemorate this particular conjunction of events. The International Partnership on Microbicides issued a strong feminist statement this past week, and UNAIDS put out a report called We've Got the Power on Women and Girls. But the most interesting report in my mind, and of course it received almost no coverage anywhere, was a document issued by UNICEF and UN Women, supported by Plan International, reviewing the status of girls over the last 25 years. A quite fascinating compendium. And while they readily acknowledge the progress that has been made in so many areas and so many regions, they also, in the process, identify those areas in 2020 which require considerable attention. They identify, at least in my mind as I read it, sexual violence, female genital mutilation, child marriage, and secondary school. Fascinating. You know, there are 1.1 billion girls in this world under the age of 18, and 68 million girls added every year, so we're talking about a huge cohort. On sexual violence, the report points out that 1 out of every 20 girls globally between the ages of 15 and 19 has experienced forced sex. And in a review of 62 countries, 1 out of every 5 girls in that age range, particularly in sub-Saharan Africa where it's focused, have experienced intimate partner violence in the last year. And rather mournfully, the report also points out that some 40% of girls, close to half of girls in that age group, think that wife beating is legitimate in certain circumstances. And then on female genital mutilation, I have to say this took me aback. When they surveyed the 31 countries that are engaged still in genital mutilation, they found that for girls 15 to 19, 1 out of every 3 is still subject to genital cutting. I thought it happened much earlier. I didn't realize it was so high in that adolescent age range, but apparently it is. And then in the area of child marriage, they have a very strong section on household chores, which underscores a conviction of AIDS-free world that child marriage equals child labor. But they go on to say that in the great majority of countries in the world, the minimum age of marriage is 18. But you can get married under the age of 18 in most of those countries with parental or judicial approval. And then finally, around secondary school, this is kind of unnerving. Let me focus on sub-Saharan Africa where the vulnerability is greatest. 5 million girls are not in school. And of girls in secondary school who are eligible, only 1/3 of them make it. And here's the staggering statistic. Just a little more than 1/4 of the girls who get into secondary school graduate. So you can understand the discriminatory feature. It may explain why back in 1995 there were, between the ages of 10 and 19, some 750,000 girls who were living with HIV, and today that number has risen to nearly 1 million. It's an interesting report. It's good to have a report which has signposts for the future, and it suggests strongly that there must be amongst UN agencies a much more tenacious urgency around these issues. That was last week. I'm Stephen Lewis.